my fellow hunters, and while I am excited for Raging Bracky to come to Iceborne, and don't get me wrong, I, well, very much am, I was watching the trailer for the 8,673rd time when I was like, hang on. This move is actually utterly insane, isn't it? Like, it is just ridiculous. He completely annihilates the ground, explodes something fierce, but more than that, it either blocks off the exits of the zone you're in, so there's no running from Daddy Brack, the way it should be, or at the very least explodes them too, so you do have to dodge the move or already be colossally far away. You can't just dip to safety. And that's really, well, a first for Monster Hunter, and it kind of got me thinking, that's insane. That's absolutely, utterly insane. And it's no secret that I've been a little bit on the monster attacks shouldn't get too crazy because, well, you know, they're supposed to at least be somewhat, almost kinda biologically believable. That's what I like. And look, admittedly, that's what Capcom likes too. They love to give even a pseudo explanation for everything. They really do. So whether you like it or not, they do enjoy giving their monsters some, well, almost biology. But when it comes to stuff like this, you just gotta sit back and go, well, fuck me. And after everything I've said about Frontier, and don't get me wrong, there are a lot of parts of Frontier I like. There are a lot of moves that I like this. And as much as I really dislike Blangonga as a monster, I dislike that he looks like he's permanently a cartoon who's been hit on the head with a hammer and the lump has never healed, I think that's an ingeniously creative way of using some snow fun, actually wrapping your hunter in it and then you spiraling away in the ball. I could totally get behind that. And I'll be real, it's not so much the moves in Frontier that I've been kind of about, though some of them are hysterical. It has always been mainly the monster design, because I don't care who you are or what you say. Bloody fucking Tigrex with metal bits stuck on him is awful. But there are still some really good examples of creativity in Frontier that's, yes, over the top, but also really quite fun. Even to use Blangonga again, they have a full-on freeze, or to go over to everybody's favorite fleshy stretch bag, Kezu, at least in Zenith form, has a I eat you and you die, which is brilliant, because guess what would happen if you got eaten by a monster? You would die! And I love that it's that brutal and just, well, alright, I'm gonna head out. I think that is just fantastic. So I was like, okay, alright, moves that are that just, whoa, are fun. They have a place. And then I looked at the rest of Iceborne and I was like, well, honestly, I feel like there really has been some almost scale creep on monster attacks, and I feel like it's almost been a necessity that there has been. Hunters are getting so much more powerful so quickly that monsters have to keep up. From World onwards, our control of our characters, the skills we have access to, the armor, the set bonuses, the moveset on the weapons, the fluidity, now with the clutch claw and flint shots, we have so many more tools than ever before of destroying monsters utterly. You only need to look that Iceborne Rajang is a bajillion times more intense than pre-Iceborne Rajang, old world Rajang, yet honestly an easier fight, and that's because we're just so good at killing things now. So in order to make things truly threatening, you have to throw out there some nuclear level destruction to catch us off guard. You have to engineer things like Lunastra Nova, where it's not so much about avoiding it, but mitigating it as best you can. That's a really fun move, and yeah, Lunastra superheating the air around her, so your very skin is drying out and cracking and burning, and I can get behind that. I can believe that. Elder Dragon powers right there, and that one is a very good example. Raging Brachy chain punching the ground, building up such a huge critical mass of slime that the resulting explosion is apocalyptic. Yeah, I can get behind that. The exit zone explosions are maybe a little bit more than that, but still, okay, it is alright, that's fine. He is supposed to be arguably the strongest non-Elder Dragon there is, certainly stronger than a lot of Elder Dragons. And then you look at other monsters, even just in Iceborne. You have Shara. Oh my word! Which, look, there's no two ways about it, that does look like an attack straight out of Frontier. It does, and I can't comfortably sit there and be like, well, that's totally fine, but something like... What the fuck is that? Isn't, because it feels a little bit wrong. But, you know, then I wanted to look deeper into it, because even though it does feel wrong, I still can't deny that I am okay with Shara throwing a wind-based giant Rasengan of Doom, but I'm not okay with a version of Gravios that, well, could destroy mountains. And the reason for that, I think, is twofold. Number one, yes, I am very much into the monsters are animals, not just walking boss fights, and thus that should be respected and represented, and for the most part it is. It's what drew me to Monster Hunter, it's what sparked that passion, actually seeing these as creatures. It engineered my love for nature, it made me fascinated, fueled my imagination, and gave me such a passion and a love for, well, the natural world. So I will never, ever deny my hunger for learning how these monsters work as animals. Never say no to the satisfaction going, oh, Teostra snashes his teeth together, creates a spark, which ignites the powder he scattered in the air. That's really cool, and I think it is really cool. And you have something like Shara, which might be one of the 5 ancient dragons that created the world, or at least an aspect or representation of, doing his song, doing this ball of vibration-y wind, and you're like, okay, yeah, whatever, he's a giant tree demon that breaks the bloody 4th wall and stares into you, the human, because he knows. But Gravios is just a normal wyvern, and yes, it's Zenith Gravios, which translates to, let's take this monster and just do whatever we want with it. And him having that level of power that dwarfs nearly everything in the main series just there is kind of ridiculous to me. But even past that, I think presentation is what I'm coming to understand is the main gripe that I have. And that might be as vain as saying that yes, graphics really do matter, but not even in terms of graphics, it's the aesthetic, it's the slickness of it, the jankiness of it or lack thereof, the aesthetic, how it's actually communicated to you through visuals what is going down and why it is going down. Even if you have something that is the scale of just mind-boggling power, if it is presented in a way that is slick and smooth and flows, then you're like, okay, yeah, I can get behind this. Because I think with Frontier, obviously it's an older game, and I can't hold that against it, because yeah, it's an older game, but the way it does these full screen just ridiculousnesses, it really looks awful, right? Like, there's no iframes going there, there's just the world is on fire, good luck. It just isn't communicated very well, it's not done well in a gameplay mechanic sense, it's just janky fire covering everything you can see. Whereas then you take something like Sapphire of the Emperor. Why is he in the air? Oh!
What?
Oh!
What?
Run!
I can't
What is
see!
this? What is this? What is this happening? We're like in an infernal furnace full of what is happening? Help me!
Oh, the rocks! The rocks!
The rocks! Which is undoubtedly absolutely bonkers. But because it is done in Iceborne, because it is done so well, because it looks so gorgeous, because it is being produced by something like Safi, who is arguably Black Dragon level, because of how it is visually woven across your screen, the smoothness to it, just the raw power, the particle effects, the way it is actually represented just looks so clean that you're like, yeah, alright, I can get behind that, that's absolutely fine. You blow up the entire zone. Whereas this exact same attack, but done in Frontier's art style, I think I would be like, oh, it's a bit ridiculous. And that might be simple, that might be petty, that might be like, really? Okay. And yeah, sure, it might be. But you can't deny that plays a big part. On a subconscious level, it does. It's undeniable. And I think I've come to realize that's what it is. Because I have been there through Iceborne, a little bit in Base World, but Iceborne monsters have really turned it up to 11. Even just stuff like Joe or Seething's signature attacks are just, you know? I've just been there like, oh, that's awesome! And I've never really stopped to think until now that that's like, actually really over the top if you look at it from a certain way. Now that I'm really considering it, they are just, wow, oh my god! And I was trying to answer that question as to why. And again, I think it really is twofold. Even in the world of these utter just scope attacks, they are at least justified somewhat. They're not just done for the sake of it being done, and they are presented in a way that makes them feel great as opposed to just, well, my screen is fire, I guess that's okay now. And that is such a huge difference on a psychological level. It really, really is. Not to mention that mechanically, you do have to keep coming up with moves like this. You have to rely on AoE, you have to rely on scope and scale just to actually pose a threat to hunters, because again, we have gotten so powerful. The power creep is real. And yeah, ironically, that is what happened with Frontier. Early on, it was very reasonable, but that's an MMO, so it power creeps even harder, and you have to result in just utter ridiculousness to keep things interesting, and ultimately it's unsustainable, which is actually kind of a concern because I don't want that to happen to the main series. I don't want to be fighting something like Coral Pookie and then end up in a world of... because it would start to really lose touch with something that makes Monster Hunter so ultimately, well, addicting to me. It really, really would. It would end up really diminishing a part of it that makes it so special and unique from other games where you just fight bosses, that natural aspect. And even if you don't really care about it or look into it, I guarantee you still feel it. A part of you still senses it, and it does help towards that unconscious satisfaction, addiction towards this game that we all love to enjoy together. And that's very, very curious to see slowly happening, and it kind of has hit me that, yeah, it really is slowly happening. Monsters just are getting more and more ridiculous as we go along, and if we do get Fatalis Iceborne-ified, I'm starting to think that, mother of God, what is he going to bust out that's going to make Sapphire of the Emperor look goddamn adorable? And it's both exciting and terrifying at the same time for a myriad of reasons. So I guess ultimately I've just been rambling for a little bit, but the main questions I want to throw down here is, one, do you even care that the scale of monster attacks is kind of getting nutty, or be like, no, they're badass, bring them on? Or are you also feeling a little bit like, whoa, the scope that we are getting to now is unsustainable, and how do you correlate it to something like Frontier? And I don't want to just pick on Frontier, but it's the main thing, especially given, you know, rest in peace Frontier, but it is the good example to compare. It really, really is. I want to know your thoughts on this. I want to know if you're liking monsters more than ever, or if you think there is too much kind of just exploding AoE happening everywhere just to keep challenging us. I hope we get kind of nerfed a little bit next game, and we can kind of get to more threatening monsters without needing to really break boundaries when it comes to just how ridiculous their attacks can get. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. But for now, like you've enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. A goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.